Welcome to Healing Generations, a podcast creating a dialogue uplifting the importance of healing, strengthening, and supporting our communities, and that addresses the disparities and inequities in communities of color. Healing Generations is brought to you by the Healing Generations Institute, a collaborative initiative of the National Compadres Network and the Brotherhood of Elders. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on our new releases.
Bendiciones. Welcome. My name is Jerry Teo, and welcome to Healing Generations podcast. We are so glad that you decided to join us and go on this journey with us as we, attempt to heal generations with generational medicine. I want to just begin by thanking Creator and giving gratitude to all our ancestors, to my ancestors and to your ancestors, and invite them to join us, invite them to be with us today, to guide us, to hold us, but also to be here, because we also recognize that many of our ancestors have gone on a journey and struggled too. They sacrificed, they went through pain and didn't give up so we could be here. So we want to invite those ancestors to come and join us, and maybe as they're sitting here, they'll heal some of their pain too, and maybe share some teachings with us. And today is a special day for me because we have with us today a brother that's been on this road with me for a long time, compadre, brother, good friend, doctor, professor, healer, compadre. We just been doing this a long time, and I was just so happy, brother, that you're here with us. We just want to invite Dr. Ricardo Carrillo just to say a greeting, and then maybe to share a little bit about where his journey comes from, where his parents are from, and a little bit about his history and background. Welcome, Ricardo.
Thank you, Jerry, and thank you for having us. Really, when we open everything and anything, we always kind of do it with a prayer. So, we want to honor our ancestors. We want to pray to the east so we can have clarity today. We want to pray to the west so we can reflect on who we are and where we come from. And we want to pray to the south because we have children. I have 7 grandchildren. And we want them to be safe, and we want them to be nurtured, and we want them to grow to be wonderful human beings. And we pray to the north for the elders, those that have passed before us, my mother, my father, my uncle, my grandparents, and because we're all walking in that direction as well. And we pray to Father, Son, to Mother Earth, and to our tonali, to our spirit, that we may be balanced and connected here. So I'm Ricardo Antonio Enrique Carrillo Chavez Santiesteban. I come from a family of miners. My father was a miner from Nogales, Sonora. He worked the mines all the time. He was a young man ever since he was a boy, and migrated to the United States when he was a young man, 19. My mother comes from Matehuala, San Luis Potosí, and also a mining town there. Very Catholic family. She met my father as she was completing her palabra to be a caretaker to a senator's family in Washington, D.C. And she was promised her green card as soon as she completed her work there. So her and her sister came to take care of this senator's home and take care of their children, clean the house, and ended up being the gardener and the maid and all that. And they never got their green card. So eventually they went to the immigration department in Washington, D.C. and found that green card had been sent to their address months before. So they got another copy of their green card, and they stayed there, and they completed their palabra, and then let the senator know they were going home. And on their way home, they stopped in El Paso, where my mom met my father, who was unemployed at the time in between working the mines and the railroad. And they connected there. And shortly thereafter, I was born. So I'm the oldest of 5. And we migrated and ended up, the railroad maintenance work ended up in Oakland, California. And we were living and raised in San Francisco's Mission District.
Mm.
So I'm one of the OGs from the hood in the Mission.
In the hood there in Mission. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that, man, because,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of our families have journeyed, and, the thing that, I remember my parents didn't want to share, my grandparents didn't want to share, is the pain, of that migration and the struggle of that migration. But we recognize that there's always that part that sometimes we don't get to know. We may feel the residual of that or whatever, but we know that, in that journey, there's dos lados, the cargas and regalos. And, and I know that, your work now, Ricardo, is, you work with people in pain, and work with those people that are struggling. And our work together came together, some 32 years ago, when we were, working with families that were struggling in pain, domestic violence, sexual assault, all of that. And I began to, um, to gather with you, and we gathered. But what I found out then is that there was a long journey that brought you there. Long journey, I'm sure, of blessings and valores, but also a long journey of struggle, that, we've got to know each other and got to know those two sides. So, maybe you can share some of those teachings, buenos y malos, whatever they were, along that way, that gave you that insight into people's pain, that gave you that insight into trauma, that gave you that insight into the road towards healing.
Okay, well, I'm a licensed psychologist. I became a psychologist because I came from a very pain-filled, unbalanced family. My father is third generation alcoholic, domestic violence offender. So his father drank, and his father before him drank, and of course, tal palo tal estilla, chip off the old block. You learn how to do the same things. So growing up, I was raised in that kind of chaotic environment where I heard my father beat my mother severely, and heard her bones break to such a degree that it went through my body, and I felt as a young man that I didn't have a backbone. And as a young man, I could not protect my mother. I could not stand up to my father. And then later on, I couldn't stand up to my mom because she was physically abusive. So that's the kind of environment I grew up with. And you've had Isidro Macias on the show, who says that we pick our families. And you and I have had this conversation all the time. You always talk about beautiful families and beautiful traditions and beautiful cultura. And I would say to you, where are they, Jerry? Where are those beautiful families with that beautiful cultura? Because I wasn't raised in that kind of household. So I know that in my family, 25% of all Latino families, Hispanic families, mestizo families, indigenous families suffered the same kind of pain. And a lot of it has to do with conquista. A lot of it has to do with my dad was a miner, and so people drank after work. But there's a difference between drinking for fiesta and drinking, and being the man takes the drink takes the drink takes the man. And I ended up learning that from my father, that the drink had taken me. So I have, over my entire life, have struggled with addiction. I am now 32 years clean and sober. And you remember me when I showed up to the Retiro for the first time, detoxing from a heroin addiction. And people looked at me and said, you have death. Death is in your eyes. And so that's the first step about these lessons being raised in chaotic, dysfunctional families, is you have to decide whether you want to keep that journey going or whether you want to do something different about it. And so I had children, and you had children, and I didn't want to pass on the same legacy that my parents had given me. So I had to learn how to do something different. And first and foremost, I had to come to terms with my addiction. This was my addiction. This wasn't my father's. This wasn't my grandfather's. This was mine. And I had to do something about it. So I went to treatment a whole bunch of different times, and I couldn't get better. I was a successful failure at the treatment programs I went in. I had sponsors and I had therapists that I ate for breakfast, and I couldn't get better. And eventually, I took the real dark side and I wanted to kill myself literally. I attempted suicide. I woke up in a psychiatric hospital. I went to treatment one last time. And the only thing that saved me at that moment in time was I was going to the spirit world and I could hear my children say, Daddy, Daddy, where are you going? Where are you going? So I came back into my body and I knew that I had to do something different, you know. So by that time, my children hadn't seen me for 5 years. I had been in my addiction and been in treatment programs. And finally, I got clean and sober. So one of the things that I want to share in this podcast is, life presents whatever it does to us. The Creator has a plan. And we have to understand what's the purpose. Why is this happening? Why is this happening to me? And what can I do about it? So I was raised fatherless because my father was murdered when I was 9 years old. Based on the fact that I grew up fatherless and I became the father in my family, the oldest of 5, I had children. I didn't want to pass on to them what I had learned from my parents. You and I joined together about that time, and we started El Círculo de Hombres. And I think the reason that I got involved in that is because I had been raised fatherless. So there was a purpose in being raised fatherless, that we were able to start and gather men together and bring them together in a prayerful way, find out what our purpose and meaning was. You can improve your life even though you don't have a father. You can learn from other men how to be fathers, how to be brothers, how to be compadres, how to forgive yourself for the damage that you've done to other people and to yourself. So that was a very big part. And thank God, my children and my grandchildren will never know that side. They'll never know what addiction is. They'll never know what domestic violence is. They'll never know what going to state prison is. They only know that they got a doctor for a grandfather who's kind of crazy, but he's around.
Ricardo, let me first thank you and acknowledge you, brother, for all those years of being clean and sober, brother. Because I know it's not an easy journey, and even though you may choose that, that dark side keeps coming to call, and I remember, when you and I met and we decided that we needed to do something, because not only were we hurting, but we were seeing our communities hurting. We were seeing men enact things that we despised, that we remembered our fathers did, but there was nothing for them. And so we came together 32 years ago, thinking we were going to develop programs, thinking that we were there to develop, something different. And we lit that medicine, said a prayer, asked the ancestors come in, and you got to be careful when you do that, because they came in, they come in and they opened us all up. And what they said to us is, you guys are all jacked up. The first step that you need to do, if you're going to help your family, help your community, is you got to heal yourself. And that's the journey that we began 32 years ago, how that happened, how we came together, how, I know it was spirit guided. It was guided by the Creator, So why don't you share, because that was a turning point. What happened to you there, the Círculo? What did you find? What was different from the treatment programs, and what went on with you?
Well, I think what happened was all of us had a place. We could sit in Círculo, and all of us belonged there, no matter what we did, who we were, what we were like, what neighborhood we were from, whether we had a degree, whether we had money, we didn't have money. It didn't matter. We had a place. I had a place. I was no longer estúpido, baboso, no sirves para nada. I was Ricardo. Ricardo had a place in this prayer, me, in a prayer circle, me, dope fiend, criminal, ex-con, batterer, no sirves para nada, good for nothing. I was sitting in a prayer circle. I could be accepted here. and you and Isaac helped me. You said, as long as you don't pick up, as long as you don't use, you can sit in circle and you can lead in prayer. But the minute that you start using, you can't lead in prayer. But you always have a place here.
Mm.
So that valid, and I think that really happens for many familias, many Latino and African and Asian families. You migrate here and you don't have a place.
Mm.
You're an immigrant. You don't understand the language. You don't understand the customs. You don't understand the place. You don't have anything. You don't believe you have anything to offer.
Mm.
And the value of what we did and what we continue to do in Círculo is to say, you're welcome, you have a lugar, give us your palabra that you're going to participate. So that taught me that I had value and I had merit.
Mm.
Now, who else knows about chemical dependency? Who else knows about domestic violence? Who else knows how to stay clean and sober but somebody like me? So I became an expert in those areas.
Mm.
Having been a consumer, having gone to treatment programs, having been a successful failure, I could teach you how to build programs that help people that were chemically dependent, domestically violent, suicidal, homicidal, which is what I do now. I'm a psychologist with the Department of Public Health, and I work with the police department.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody needs help, it's the police, let me tell you. So working with folks, understanding the life-threatening situation that people are in, they need somebody like us who can hold the space. Mm-hmm. Somebody that can say, hey, I see you, I understand you, and I got you. Mm-hmm. I got you. I'm going to hold the space and I'm going to hold you through this situation. And the Círculo taught me that. So therefore, as a psychotherapist, I can offer that to the world. Mm-hmm. And that's what I do.
Yeah.
Day in and day out.
The other thing that I saw that was profound, I mean, I saw it. I saw you break generations of cycles with your son, mm-hmm. because you brought your son there. Yeah. And I saw you sit with him, and I saw you, share with him, and I saw you ask for forgiveness from him. And then I saw you sing with him, and I saw you pray together. Yeah. Share a little bit about that.
Yeah. So this might be a good time for us to play Cuiden los Niños. Mm-hmm. Okay. So there's a tune that I wrote about child abuse, about observing the violence that happens. And we're getting ready to record it right now. And this really falls into that line with my son. Mm. Because Reynaldo was going through the very same thing. We pass on to our children. Their lessons. So the destructive lessons that I had, he was learning. He was growing up fatherless. He was growing up attracted to the gangs. He was getting attracted to selling dope. And now I was clean and sober, and I wanted for us to connect and for us to have the relationship we had when he was small. When he was small, he talked about everything, we'd listen to a song, da 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 da. He says, hey, that's a sad song, huh, Dad? I said, yeah. He says, you know what? That song reminds me of Mary. I said, who's Mary? She says, she's my girlfriend. He says, you're 5 years old. What you mean, just your girlfriend? Yeah, and we're going to get married. And in that moment, I realized I had never had a moment like that with my dad. So that's what we had when he was little. Now he's a teenager. And man, he's playing football. He thinks he's Ronnie Lott. He wants to kill everybody on the football field, and so he's good at that. But, remember, I'm a psychologist. So I had to test my kids. I tested kids. My son was a standard deviation above the mean. That means he was a bright kid. Guess what? He's failing every class at school. Mm-hmm. So I was, I was frustrated. I was trying to get him to go to school. I was trying to, make a connection with him. I was trying to bribe him, get me a C and I'll give you the car. You can have an Acura, My brother would talk to him. I talked to him and I didn't know what to do. I couldn't connect with him. And one day he was upset and he wanted to go to some quinceañera or something in the valley. I said, no, you got to get your grades up. And then I said, what did you do with that little boy that used to talk to me all the time? And he said, he left when you did. So I said, well, I think we ought to go to this retiro with men. And I think you ought to, you and I got to do some work. And he was willing to come. So we went to the retiro, and I remember getting on my knees and asking for forgiveness from him for not being available, for not being present, for not being his father, for not being there. And in front of all of the men there. And I think that might have been one of the first times that we had that kind of healing experience between father and son. And Aldo said, get up, Dad. You got it. Huh. You got it. And then he said, okay, I'm going home with Mom. So wait a minute. Yeah. It's just getting good. We just have an opportunity to make this thing happen. He said, no, I got to go home and take care of Mom. I got to go home and take care of my sister.
Yeah. That's beautiful, Ricardo. And that experience with you and Naldo really touched a lot of people, and it really encouraged men to bring their sons and to bring their fathers to that círculo. But the other gift that you had is that gift of music, and I want to take that moment and go ahead and let's play this song "Cuidan los Niños," because I know that your motivation for your own healing came from you seeing the need for really taking care of the children, really healing the children like that. So let's take a moment and listen to this beautiful song that you recorded.
Desde chiquitito crecí en una confusión, aprendí el cariño, pero no había comprensión. Los secretos se guardaban para en la vida aparentar. Nuestros padres nos querían, pero parar de pegarse no podían. Cuiden los niños, cuídenlos. Cuiden los niños, cuídenlos, oye, no me dejen. Cuiden los niños, cuídenlos. Cuiden los niños, cuídenlos.
So why don't you share a little bit about that song, Ricardo? How did that come about? How did that song? Because you're a musician. I mean, and that's one thing I didn't note when I introduced you, that you're a longtime musician. I think music has helped heal you and help heal a lot of people in your life. Talk a little bit about how this song came about that way.
Yeah, well, that's really one of the only gifts my dad gave me. Was he taught me how to play 4 chords. I learned how to play the bolero with him and the ranchera. So, he used to have a friend, Ralph, he taught Ralph how to play, and he used to always get all over Ralph's kid. Hey, ¿cómo eres tonto? No sabes cómo tocar. Hey, pay attention. that play like that. And so one day he just sat down and he showed me how to play tra, ta, tra, ta, the bolero rhythm. Mm-hmm. So that was part of our, my brother plays the conga, and my sister, when she was alive, played the piano. So we got that from my dad. And my dad was a requinto, so he played that beautiful romantic music, de los trios. He was the lead. He was the requinto, and so I learned how to play that. And Cuiden los Niños came about because I watched, what happened in the home, and the song has three movements, and so you want to reflect on how that was, and how that was for us was we saw, the violence occurred, and we wanted to be connected. We wanted the warmth and the tenderness of our parents, and what we got was the fire and the explosion. So that's what Cuiden los Niños is about. And what happened was when I would play that song, my mother was alive, she would say, that song makes me sad when I hear that song. I said, well, I didn't write that to make you sad, Mom. She says, well, you don't understand. She said, your dad was a cantinero. So he needed to go to the cantina. And I fought with him to go with him to the cantina. But if I went to the cantina with him, there was nobody at home to take care of you kids. And so one day they came back, and my brother and I and my sister were in the back in a porch, and there happened to be a can of kerosene or gasoline, and we were playing with matches, right? Because the kids do. Lit the match, and the match fell down into the can, and the can exploded with a fire. And just as that happened, my father walked in, put something on top of it, and that was the end of that. And my mother felt guilty because she wasn't there taking care of us. So that was kind of like that lesson. Oh, we all had a lesson from that. And oh, by the way, my father died in that same house in a fire years later. Right. So that's what that song is about. And really, we want to offer the song now as a way for us to attend to not only domestic violence, not only chemical dependency, but all of the exploitive and discriminative things that happen to our children right now that are being held in detention centers, that don't have parents available to them, that they feel abandoned and neglected and have to fend for themselves. And so when we're victimized, we want to learn how to be survivors. And as survivors, we want to learn how to thrive and heal from any of these situations that have caused us to feel the pain that we felt.
Wow. Well, that the music that you play, obviously is a big part of your journey, a big part of the healing, I've seen you, when you play that music and your spirit, it just comes alive. It just comes alive. And people, I mean, I know at the Retiro, I think they're always waiting for you to play, especially the Colores and some of the, all those other songs that you play that really bring the spirit of the music that can really help us that way. I know in your journey, you've seen the power of healing. The power of healing, not only for ourselves, but for communities. I wonder if you can talk a little bit about that healing medicine, because it's you talked about your mom, and I remember your mom. Your mom was a tough lady. She didn't play. She didn't take no shitty. She didn't. You'd be on her chitty list. Don't be on my chitty list. But your mom had a spirit about her too.
Yeah.
And I see that spirit come out in you. Where you want to help people. I wonder if you can talk a little bit about that spirit of your mother and your journey to really help people in communities.
Well, my mom was a victim of domestic violence 3 times. She married 3 men of the same type, same caliber, alcoholic, domestically violent men. And we lived with her through these 3 marriages, and we would always say to her, the dicho, mejor sola que mal acompañada. Better to be alone than to be in bad company, Mom. And, when we were growing up, we, fought with these guys and, tried to protect her and my sister and all that. But that was my mom's journey. She said, this is my problem. Let me do what I got to do. And eventually she let all that go, and she lived alone for a long time. And she was very Catholic. And, she paid for all of us to go to Catholic school. And so that's how we learned Spanish. Dios te salve María, llena eres de gracia, Señor es contigo, bendita eres entre todas las mujeres. So when my father died, we did the rosary every night. We went to the cemetery every Sunday. We went to misa 2 or 3 times a week. My mother dressed in black. So for her, religion and prayer, and she prayed every day for everybody. She did her prayer, when she sat down to eat, hey, go feed baby Jesus. Go take that plate to baby Jesus, because baby Jesus is going to take care of all of us, right? So that was mom's way of surviving and healing. So she taught us about prayer. She taught us about religion. And so in our journey, those of us that are Chicanos, Mexicanos, Mestizos, we value el indigenismo. The Mexican, if you're Mexican, esos son indios cochinos. Esos son indios tontos. No saben nada. And that's not the way we think. We think that we know we've had incredible, sophisticated, advanced civilizations way before the coming of the Europeans. And so we knew about medicine. And everybody has a tia, everybody has an abuela, everybody has a curandera, somebody with remedio, somebody to help you. Sana colita de rana, right? We have these sayings and dichos, and so everyone has that. My mother wasn't like that. But everybody in the community, there's always somebody there. So when Cortés came for the conquista, he told Isabela y Fernando, do not send me any physicians. We have very good ones here. So when they arrived to Tenochtitlan, they saw the gardens, the wealth of the gardens that were established, and 65 to 75% of those herbs actually had the healing properties. Even today, we know that we had that medicine for a long time. We did cranial surgery. We did dental work when folks had their teeth rotting in Europe. So as we studied, as we got better, I had to figure out how could I help nuestra gente, because not only do we, have difficulties with depression and anxiety and schizophrenia and trauma, we also suffer from ancient impairments like susto. So we have different ways of looking at the world and incorporating our medicine to help them. So I started studying. I went to Mexico. I went to SEDEC, was a centro that teaches people how to be physicians, practitioners, curanderos, incorporating the ancient medicine with modern technologies. So my maestro Laurencio Lopez Nunes, who's a botanist by training, a hierbero, also treats susto by cleansing and doing limpias, and he can do the cleansing of the darkest limpias. Señora Enriqueta Contreras, también en Oaxaca, another partera, sobadora, hierbera, temescalera, taught me about the women's medicine. So I started incorporating, and we in Oakland started having these curanderos come and share the medicina to the community. So we actually started to make La Cultura Cura Tu Locura in East Oakland at Cultura y Bienestar, bringing in Concha Saucedo, bringing in Señora María Barajas, bringing in Laurencio, bringing in Doña Queta, bringing in all of the people that were in the area. So I became a facilitator of faculty, of people that were curanderos that were available. So I started incorporating that práctica myself. So we wrote a book, and you contributed to that book, Jerry, Cultura y Bienestar, a Mesoamerican mental health and traditional healing. Practice-based evidence, not evidence-based practice, practice-based evidence. So today at the Department of Public Health, when people die of a homicide, when there is somebody who dies in a tragic accident, guess who they call? El Doctor Carrillo. Go do what they got. And then the people say, can I get a cleansing? Can I get a limpia? I've got colleagues that are African American, Filipino, Chinese that come to me and say, can you fan me off? Learning that that's an acceptable way of being able to work with folks. Concha and I still do community healings for people that have been assaulted or battered or beaten or violated in their housing projects in San Francisco.
Yeah, if you can, because I think that's really important. You mentioned the concept susto, and a lot of people don't really. I mean, in this Western society, you talk about homicides and you talk about all kinds of tragedies, and the medical practitioners, even the mental health practitioners, may go out there, but don't understand that there's a larger aspect of trauma that in our culture we understand. Can you explain a little bit about the aspect of susto and what that means from our indigenous point of view, so that people can understand it?
Yeah. So let me explain. We have in the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, we have a diagnosis for trauma. It's called post-traumatic stress disorder. It used to be called shell shock. Then it became battle fatigue. And then after the Vietnam War, we called it post-traumatic stress disorder. In Mexico, we have 3 different ways of describing the same kind of thing. Espanto, which is a little fear, come out, car almost hits you, you get palpitations, you're nervous, shortness of breath. Espanto, little fear. Miedo, I'm afraid that something has happened or something will happen. Fear, we have 7 diagnostic categories in DSM for anxiety disorders. But we just call it miedo. Trauma, on the other hand, is defined as susto, meaning loss of the soul, loss of the spirit. There is a part of you that you no longer have present. It's not there. And you can't get better. You can learn how to manage your symptoms, and you can learn how to stop the racing thoughts, and you can take medications, and you can get, acupuncture and massage therapies. But if your spirit isn't back, you're not complete. You're not whole. So this approach and this style is holistic. We're talking about the body. We're talking about the mind. We're talking about the heart, and we're talking about the spirit. And so we have to be reconnected. So we got to call that spirit back. We have to call Ricardo, ven pa atrás. Ricardo, ven pa atrás. And healers do it in different ways. Some people bury you in the sand. Some people put a sheet over you. Some people use the ruda and the pirul and beat you in the back so your spirit can come back to you. And you may need several limpias and cleansings to bring that spirit back. But if you've seen anybody go to war, or you've seen a rape victim, you see that their eyes are empty. They're not here. We call it in modern psychology disassociation. But it's not just that. You just don't go to a corner. There's something missing from you. So in order for us to help somebody, we got to do all those other things that we talked about. But you also have to help the person reconnect with their spirit so that they can be whole. And you don't do it alone. You need to do it in community. Just like the Círculo welcomed me and gave me a place, we need to do that in community. Your family, your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your husband, your wife, your children have to join you to bring that spirit back so you can get reintegrated and be whole again.
It's really powerful because I think, especially now, a lot of people are in susto. A lot of people are disassociating. A lot of people are having difficulty staying present because, they're, all the things that are going on. And many of our relatives, have had susto for a long time, and try and replace it by drinking or by getting high or by doing other things, the addictive patterns. What we understand in our indigenous way is that, replacing what is missing in your sacred spirit by other spirits is not the way to heal.
That's right.
It may be a way to cope for the moment. It may reduce your anxiety for that period of time, but you still are missing that sacred spirit that makes you whole, And I think it's really important right now, especially that we recognize the importance of honoring spirit, giving people lugar, and even the whole essence of how we balance out the Western medicine from our indigenous way, and I know that that's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
That is your work. Your work is balancing that out in many ways, and I think you serve a real important role in doing that.
Well, I learned that from you, Jerry. I learned that we are sacred. I learned that we have to maintain balance, rhythm, and harmony. And used to say things. I said, "Oh, you're making that stuff up. Where'd you find that? Oh, it's in the codex. Oh, really? Show me." And so, I was that empirical researcher that needed to, get proof. And so the proof is in the pudding. The proof is that people have to recognize that we come from spirit, that we have cultural beliefs and values, and that our ancestors are here with us. So my mother has passed on. She's now an ancestor, and she's here present with us all the time. And it's important for us to recognize that we need to give ourselves space. Everyone has to, like we teach the men in the retiro, to have a lugar, to have an altar, to put fire, water, earth, air, your santos there so that you can call upon them. Even if you just meditate for 2 minutes in the morning and 2 minutes at night, that's what I do every day. Just like my mother did the rosario every day, I do my prayer because I got to get ready for the day. I ask, help me help the people I'm working with. Help me be present. Help me not be affected by the evil I'm going to see today. So we need to have that quiet time. And just like you've taught us, and, I want to put a pitch for Jerry Theo right now, Recovering Your Sacredness. I give that book to every single one of my patients I have in practice. Just like I do EMDR, just like I do meditation, just like I send them to go see the Señora Maria for the sobada, I also get them to read Jerry's book because it tells you have to give yourself time. You have to love yourself. You have to give yourself that opportunity to be connected with yourself and to understand that you have something of value to offer to other people. So my mother taught us this in her own way, that life is about love. Life is about love and caring and remembering. She remembered everybody every day. So in those prayers, she'd call you, es el santo de tu hermana, es el santo de tu nieto. I know it's my what you better remember. You better remember. You're going to get your wife something today? It's her. You better have a cake for her. You better, So esas son las cosas que tenemos que recordar of value. My family was a very dysfunctional family. We were raised with violence. We were raised with homicide. We were raised with very destructive energies. For many years, we couldn't be in the same room without somebody exploding and somebody, walking away and not wanting to talk to you. When my mom was dying, we spent 6 months caring for her. My sister, her husband, my nephew. And then we would give them, my brother and I, my other sister, respite. And we became a very normal, loving, functional family. Because that's what my mother did for us. She loved us in her own way. She cared for us in her own way. She provided for us in her own way. My mother was a homeowner 4 times. 4 times by herself. She owned a home in Hayward, and then a home in San Jose, then a home in Stockton, then a home in Orange County. She had her little 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo in an elders community. So she said, you have to take care of yourself. You have to, and she would pray to Saint Judas for me. Ese doctor es un pendejo baboso y no sabe nada. Please take care of him. So we learned that with her. And so I just want to share that it's possible. If you do the work, I don't care how crazy your family is. I don't care how crazy you are. You know what? Pay attention. All you have to do is reflect and listen. The Creator will guide you. The Creator will tell you. La Virgen is there. Those energies are available for us so we can walk in a good way. We can offer healing. I never thought I would be in the position that I'm in, to be the senior psychologist for the police department, senior psychologist for the tragedies in San Francisco. But people trust me. They trust me.
Yeah.
And so my mother taught me to trust me. You taught me to trust me. Isaac taught me to trust me. Now my children trust me with their children, with my grandchildren. And you know what? That's what it is. That's what it is. That's what it's about. There's no magic to it. If we can get here, you know how many men are alive that are my age from the Mission District? There's not too many, bro.
Yeah.
There's not too many.
Yeah. But you know, you're a testimony of transformation, because from what you have experienced, you know, and you know, again, you say, you shared what Isidro mentioned, that we pick our families, and in that family, you know, you learned how to not be afraid of that fire, how to go into that darkness, how to go into that hurt and pain, so that you can then work with people that are in the fire, in the pain, in the hurt. But also your mother taught you to love.
Yeah.
And she taught you to pray. And she taught you to not be judgmental. And out of that medicine, you now have a family, you now have grandchildren that love you, that really honor you, and that really know the sacred part of Ricardo Carrillo. So we know it's possible. We know it's possible, you know, and I just want to appreciate you, brother. You know, and we're still crazy. You're still crazy. You're still, you know, out there, and so you still got that spirit in you too. But you go in some real difficult situations, you know, tragic situations, and go to help people. And I appreciate you for that. You know, I appreciate you for all that you do. You know, I want to. You know, I know we're gonna listen to a little bit more music at the end, but I want to invite you. You know, to let's play that music now. Let's go ahead and play that song right now, because since you mentioned your mom, I feel her spirit here.
Yeah.
Talk about this song that we're gonna play.
Yeah. It's called Profundamente. And you know, musicians, you know, we're raised during the time that you know, we're, you know, Latin lovers, right? You know, we play music for these women, and we want to enamorarnos, and you know, we want to be romantic, and I thought I wrote this song for a woman. No, this is my mom's song. And if you love anybody, if you going to love anybody, and I've been married 3 times, and I finally have a wife who I have learned how to be in relationship with. My mama loved her. She loved my mama. They got along very well. When my mother was dying, we were with her 6 months, and I was presenting. I was a keynote speaker in Denver, and I thought I was going to go play at a wedding in New Orleans. And my sister said, "No, I think you better come home." So I came home, and the doc said, well, you know, she was in hospice and probably about 72 hours. So it was Monday morning. I was there Thursday. It was now Monday morning. We figured it would be about that time. I got the guitar out. I tuned it up. And I played Mama her songs. You know, she likes, you know, Tú me acostumbraste by Los Tres Haces. And there were things that I had written, you know, before, Cuiden los niños more. But then there's this one tune, Profundamente, that I played for her. It broke up, you know, voice singing. And that's what she waited for. After I played that song, she passed. She was waiting for me to sing to her.
Let's listen to Profundamente.
Profundamente en tu amor, enseñaste a amar, tú me enseñaste a amar, tú me enseñaste a amar y me hiciste completo.
You know, Ricardo, what a beautiful gift that you share that story and share that song. And, you know, do you still sing to your mom that song?
She sings to me now. It runs through my head. And so I can feel her. She's like, I remember. I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I as we bring this this ceremony, because I think that's what this has come to be, another círculo, with you and I and all the people that are listening. To a close, I wanna ask you, because I think it's really important, especially in this time. And you and I were young when we met, and we're not so young no more. Get a little bit older, and
Yep.
we're older and elder or something like that. And I think it's really important, for the elders to share teachings, and that's why I wanted you to spend this time with us. But I just want to give you the opportunity, if there's anything that you'd like to leave to that next generation, for them to think about, or them to hold on to, or them to know. What would you what counsel, or what consejos or medicine would you share?
Well, first and foremost, there's no matter what you've done, no matter what we've suffered or endured, we can all survive it. So if I can get better, if I can get clean and sober, if I can stop beating women, if I can stop wanting to kill myself, anybody can, because that's what I was destined to do, right? So that's when we have to take responsibility for ourselves. Cargas, regalos. What's the carga? And learn. There's programs now everywhere. There's counseling, there's therapy, there's men's círculos around the world, women's círculos around the world. You can go get some help. You can't get better by yourself. You need to get some help. So it's important to know where to go. Make yourself available to take responsibility for your carga. Your regalo is who you are, what spirit you have, what family you come from. Share that. Be of service to your community. Ayuda a tu gente. Feed the home. Feed people who are hungry. My brother is working in the Mission District with Roberto Hernandez. They have the Mission Food Hub. They're feeding thousands of people a day because we need it. People are hungry. People that don't have a home. You shared that wonderful story about the homeless people in Compton during the riots, right? And how your mom took care of them and how then they took care of your mom. People need shelter. Find a way to help people get shelter. Find anyone who has been violated, abused, neglected. They need to know that we can hear them. We can feel them, and we can be there for them. Even if you can't do it, let's find a way to serve people. And if we do that in our community, we won't have this gentrified, disconnected, I don't care who you are. It's either privilege or I don't give up. Right? And there's both things are wrong. Let's care about ourselves and let's care about the people that we live with and make sure that they have what they need. And so even if it's something simple, even if it's just, a meal, don't give the homeless guy or the guy who's asking you for money, give him a meal. Give him a meal, feed him, and direct him to a shelter. Find out where the hot team is at. Homeless outreach team in your community, and get them connected to folks. That's really what people need. They need to know that other people care about them. So we need to be able to provide that. And so if we do that, our children are going to do that. And if our children do it, our grandchildren are going to do that. And we're going to have a better world and a better community for it.
Well, there's many, many people that are better because of you. And, I just want to acknowledge you for sitting with me and 32 years ago, for you joining with me with this crazy idea that we thought we could do something and didn't realize the Creator just wanted to sit us down to heal us first, to give us the opportunity. And 32 years ago, we said, we're going to do this for 4 years only. We're going to commit to 4 years. And then 4 years turned into all this time. And, but what a blessing. What a blessing for so many men, for so many boys, for so many families. And we couldn't do it without the mujeres. The mujeres that really supported us, waited for us, guided us. They got on our case when we needed to. But it was really the women that guided us this whole way and gave us a lugar and prayed for us like your mom continued to pray for us. So I want to just, as we finish today, the powerful message that Dr. Carrillo shared with us is that, the hope, that the medicine is always there, your spirit is sacred, but you got to do your work. You got to do your work. And that there are people out there that can help you. There are programs, but the Creator's there too, and the ancestors are there. And then when you get on that road, you got to give it back.
Yeah.
You got to pray it back. You got to share it back that way. And that círculo, that enlaquech, that healing circle that we're all part of, is part of this journey that we're on. I want to just thank you all for listening. Look up Dr. Carrillo and go check out the book and the Cultura de Bienestar and really get on this path to bringing the healing medicines of generations so that we can heal the trauma of generations. Leave us a review. Tell other people about this podcast. And we thank you very much. Thank you, ancestors, for guiding us today. And as we continue, que Dios te bendiga. Thank you all very much.
For more information about Healing Generations and the Healing Generations Institute, visit nationalcompadresnetwork.org and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our new releases.